how long it has been. Days that felt like years. Years that felt like days. And yet, no matter how much time passes, it still trembles. Our beautiful connection. I can feel it quickening now. How lucky we are to need each other in this way. So then, will you partake once more? The third episode, the fourth fate. So, Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4, huh? What a wild ride. Bit of a different type of video today. Usually I use this channel to upload devlogs for my funny little fan game Versotale. However, today I've decided to record my reactions to Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4 and share with the class what my thoughts are. Just a small note, there's a lot of big moments I'm probably going to be skipping over. Either I didn't have that big of a reaction, or I simply didn't audibly react because I'm not a good YouTuber, and thus would be kinda pointless to put in a first impressions video. Oh yeah, speaking of not being a good YouTuber, I didn't click the little pre-multiplied alpha setting on my OBS capture, which messed up the background of the green room and the Lightner's Live segment, which I do rectify later on in the video. Just a bummer I didn't catch that sooner. Alright, so first, just because I absolutely need to talk about him, let's talk Tenna. Because, oh my god, dude, this guy is an absolute goober and I love and cherish him. He makes me want to go and give a big hug to the nearest CRT in my local area. I don't know who on the Deltarune team decided he should be a 3D model, but I love whoever made that decision with all of my heart because all of Tenna's animations are just... chef's kiss, man. Okay. Oh my fucking god. For how blatantly non-serious of a character Tenna is, it is also remarkable how tragic his character is. Though I suppose that shouldn't be a surprise, considering who wrote this game and the types of characters he can make that go from goofy to tragic in the blink of an eye. Of course he's lonely and depressed and doesn't want the fun gang to leave, he's been unplugged and unused for ages. It's funny because my opinion of Tenna swayed so wildly between hate to love, to hate again, then love again. The amount of off-color comments he made regarding the Dreamer family situation and deaths just made me stop. Like, Tenna, I'm a sucker for dark jokes, but you can't say that stuff, dude! Not to Chris! I'm looking forward to this. Heck, maybe you could get her to come back and watch it. Fuck you. Though, based on him not knowing what happened to Asriel, it's possible he legitimately just didn't know about Des being gone. But I don't know if I fully buy that. He could have just been trying to make a joke to lighten the mood about the situation, but it didn't quite land. Still didn't stop me from instantly hating him again for a couple tidbits after that. Also, is it just me? I can't help but feel like Tenna was en route to becoming the secret boss of Chapter 3. Or at least someone in the same vein as Jevil and Spamton. The only thing stopping him from going over that edge was Spamton's deal falling through, which I feel had to be intentional, right? Like, if Spamton was just about to reveal what made him big, and the person who was helping him cut communications off right before that could happen, that feels too coincidental. Like Gaster didn't appreciate Spamton passing his savings on to Tenna and wanted to ensure that he wouldn't go mad like the others. Kinda a blessing in disguise for Tenna when you think about it, even if it led to him becoming lonely and bitter towards Spamton. There's a high chance I'm looking too much into it, of course, but it was just something interesting. Again, these are first impressions, folks. Toby wasn't lying when he said Chapter 3 was gonna be very unorthodox. I definitely was expecting a lot of mini-games, and that we got, But what I wasn't expecting was for so many sections that I can only describe as discount Zelda games. I actually loved the segments that were locked behind S-Rank. Also, shout out to Ram for giving every single Deltarune Mega fan an aneurysm. Aha! But yeah, aside from all the weird route metaphor, these segments were unironically super fun. I've never played a classic Zelda game, but now I'm thinking of giving them a look. The Shadow Mantle boss was a welcome shift up from the normal style of Deltarune combat. Oh yeah, by the way, we need to talk about those S-rank sections, because what the hell? Who placed that mysterious controller on the ground? Why does it have the same pink and yellow iconography as Spanton and Friend? Did Friend put the controller there? Or was it Ram and he just lied about being outside? Or did the Knight? Why is Friend spawned into the Shadow Mantle boss? Why does this backstage game have so many allusions to the weird route? Who knows about the weird route? Who is the Mantle? Is it being controlled by Friend? Does Friend have some special power we don't fully know about yet? These backstage segments posit so many questions that I have zero answers to. Regardless, it was nice to get the Shadow Mantle in this chapter to prepare us for the next one. I guess the Mantle counts as our Shadow Crystal this time. It's going to be really useful for the next chapter when the fight Sean was warning us about happening. Enter the roaring motherfucking night! Yeah, that night. The one we've been waiting to see and speculating the identity of for 7 years now? Yeah, we're fighting them now, right after one of the goofiest non-serious chapters in the entire game. Thanks, Toby Fox. Can we just talk about that night boss for a second, because holy shit, what a fun boss fight! I haven't locked in that hard to a Toby Fox boss fight since Sans back when I played Undertale in 2016. Also, just because I feel the need to brag, I totally one-tried the night on a repeat playthrough when I was trying to beat Chapter 3 on my weird route save. I am an actual god gamer. But no, the night might be my favorite Toby Fox boss ever. The attacks are awesome visually, the boss is a really massive challenge, but I never felt like it was an unfair battle. The attacks were telegraphed well, there's always a pattern to figure out, it never feels like your success is up to random chance, not to mention the music. Oh my god, the music! I've been wondering when that door or chase leitmotif would come back in any capacity, and I always felt it was going to be like the Knight's theme or something. I guess we can also talk about the Knight in general. I am like 99.9999% sure it's either Carol or Des. There's just so much evidence. I mean, the antlers are the biggest one, but the weapon... I've seen people say they think it looks like a bat, which could point to Des. Me personally, I think it looks more like a katana, which we know Carol has now. Either way, I feel like by this point it has to be Des or Carol. It just makes too much sense from a narrative standpoint. Chapter 4 also introduced us to the idea of dead monsters being revived through a Dark World's creation. So I've seen people posit that maybe Des got revived, but something went wrong and now the Knight is this warped, effed up Darkner version of her. I'm personally still in Camp Carol. It just feels the most narratively satisfying to me personally, though we'll see how that changes with future chapters, won't we? We're getting into Chapter 4 now, where things are decidedly getting more serious. I mean, if the goddamn primary antagonist of the game showing up at the end of the last chapter was anything to go by. And this very well might be my favorite chapter of Deltarune. I'm not entirely sure yet. These are first impressions, and it is very hard to beat out Chapter 2 in my books. But Chapter 4 has so much going for it, like... Oh, you know. The greatest old man to ever live, then die, then come back again as a Darkner. How could I not talk about Gerson, man? He's radiating with so much big shell energy. If you're familiar with me at all, you'll know that Undyne is my favorite Undertale character, with her theme being one of my favorites in the game. So when I saw my man Gerson, the one who trained her in Undertale, sporting that glorious rendition of the Spear of Justice melody, I just about had a heart attack. Toby Fox, my man. You can't just jam Spear of Justice and the Freedom motif into one boss track. You tailor-made this song just so it could be in my top 5, didn't you? Hey! It's here! There's the melody! But aside from the music, there's so much to talk about with this guy. Firstly, isn't it kinda crazy that we've got evidence for a Lightner being revived through a dark fountain, and the implications this kinda has going forward? It feels like this was introduced for a reason, like it's setting up for a bigger payoff later. Again, first impressions, I could be wrong. It just feels intentional. This is the biggest point of evidence I see people having for Des being the knight so far. Also, shout out to Gerson for breaking the secret boss trend of having gone insane. I've seen people say that, of the secret bosses so far, Gerson is the only one who is truly free. And I couldn't agree with that sentiment more. This man got a shadow crystal like the others, had the opportunity to stare into it and probably go mad like the others, and straight up went, "Nah, that thing gives me the creeps." What an absolute boss. Gerson was always one of those Undertale characters I liked decently enough, but this chapter of Deltarune just shot him up to one of my favorite Deltarune characters. The way he trained Susie like he trained Undyne in Undertale, him playing dumb to teach lessons, the fact that he and Susie demolish a Titan's face shield. What more do you want? I've waited to talk about my thoughts on Susie and Ralsei's characterization up until we got to the more serious chapter, since I feel it's only fitting to do so here. I mean, I would be remiss to not point out the incredible character developments given to Susie and Ralsei. Susie's the standout here, obviously, but Ralsei's arc is really neat and pretty sad as well. This poor little guy spent his entire existence designed to help push the prophecy forward, and now he's starting to actually gain a bit of free thinking for himself. It absolutely broke my heart seeing him finally gain a sense of making choices on his own in the Zelda minigames. But more than that, him breaking down after Susie yells at him was so hard to watch. I know it's been a popular theory that Ralsei is very suspicious and secretive, and that he's gonna be like the final secret boss or something even more sinister, and I never really bought into that, at least not him having sinister motivations. But this moment solidified to me more than anything that Ralsei is only keeping information to himself to protect his friends. And Susie. God, man. Prior to Chapter 3, Chris was my favorite Deltarune character. But Chapters 3 and 4 propelled Susie so far ahead of Chris in my books that Chris has a lot of catching up to do. Not to say I don't still love Chris, but Susie was the obvious standout here. The tone shift from Chapters 1 to 3 to now is impeccable. It really does feel like we've reached the second act, huh? I think the moment where it really hit me just how serious Chapter 4 is would be right when Susie discovers Gerson's hammer in the light world and writes that letter for his son. That was beautiful. But then Susie's reaction to the end of the prophecy happens. The prophecy we don't get to see the end of. Whatever it is, it's clear that something tragic is going to happen. Ralsei didn't want Susie to see it, and with how much he's mentioned not wanting her to get attached to him, Lancer, or anyone from the Dark World, it seems just far too apparent that something's going to happen to them. I don't know what. I've seen a lot of thoughts tossed around like, Ralsei is going to be sacrificed, or Dark Worlds will need to be permanently sealed forever, and such. The prophecy in general just has a very sad implication to it as well, that Susie isn't the intended monster girl to carry out its story. Susie seemed all happy to be picked for something like this, but that silhouette clearly isn't her. It looks more like Noelle. Or hell even, and I know it's crack theory territory, Des. There's a surprisingly consistent theme in these two chapters about the fact that Susie's supposed to be able to equip ribbons. It's entirely possible Des's Wifflebat becomes a sword in the Dark Worlds. What if Des was supposed to be the monster girl in the prophecy, but because she disappeared, Susie was the only one present to take her place? Whatever the case, I almost don't hope I'm right, Because if so, Susie is going to be crushed, and I don't want to see that happen to her. I feel it's only appropriate for this moment to get its own section. Words cannot describe how the first chord of The Place Where It Rained hit me. I think for any fan of Toby Fox's universe who's been engrossed in the community, felt something deep in them when this track started playing. For those who haven't been here for the ride the whole time, this is a rendition of an Undertale track called It's Raining Somewhere Else. A track that played while Sans talked to you about really wanting to go home and him understanding the feeling. It's recontextualized in his fight in the genocide run that he's not referring to the surface when he says that. And we've always wondered what that somewhere else in the title meant. It's been a popular theory since even as far back as Chapter 1 that Sans from Deltarune might be the same one that we meet in Undertale. But I don't think anyone, or at least not me, could be quite certain if they were the same. Well, this rendition is called The Place Where It Rained, and notably, Sans' leitmotif is completely absent. Keep in mind, some of us have had time to think about this for 9 years. And I've seen a lot of people say that the first piano chord hit them like a ton of bricks and made them literally stop in place or start crying. For me, I didn't get that emotional, no. Probably because I was pretty tired and just emotionally drained. But that first familiar chord gave me a weird sense of solace, I think. Like, when your friend's telling you some story that's getting them down and all you can do is sympathize and understanding. Where you're not sure if you fully grasp everything the way they want you to, but you still feel like you have at least enough information to feel some sense of consolation with them. That's what this song feels like to me at this moment. Like what Sans said 9 years ago in Undertale about not being able to go back to a place that wasn't the surface. I finally feel like I can understand that this is very possibly the place he was talking about. But more so, I think this song felt like it was telling me the fun times are over. It's about to get real now, and there's no going back from here. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4. Hope you enjoyed this video. It's a little bit of a different type of thing to what I normally do here, but I plan to do some more of these in the future, and, actual full-on gameplay videos. I was planning on this just being a supercut of my reactions to Chapters 3 and 4, but as we've disclosed earlier in the video, I'm not a good YouTuber yet. This is my YouTuber training arc, ladies and germs. But yeah, thanks for listening. I know I got a little bit, maybe, theater kid there at the end. I was just having a little fun, This is a series that's been a part of my life for, 9 years now. So, forgive me if I get a little bit theatrical at some points. Oh, and by the way, if you're a fan of mine who's wondering where the Versotale updates are, don't worry, they're still gonna happen. Me trying to make more videos isn't gonna stop that. It's just an additional little thing to have some fun, make some content for this channel to help it not die. So yeah, thank you very much for checking this video out. Oh yeah, I guess I should do the YouTuber thing. Like and subscribe or I'll take your kidneys. I haven't locked in that hard to a Toby boss. Ugh, Toby boss, what the fuck? I haven't locked in that hard to a Toby box boss. Toby box. That's going in the bloopers, goddamn.